The first time I noticed it, we were under the mango tree behind the church. It was after Sunday service, and as usual, we were sharing groundnuts and gossip. Kemi didn't say much that day. She just stood by the tree, holding her stomach like she had eaten something bad. She used to be full of energy, always laughing, always singing. She had the kind of voice that made you close your eyes when she sang. Even the old women in the back row would hum along whenever she led the offering song. But that Sunday, something was different. Her face looked tired. Her choir gown looked tighter around her chest. And her mother, Mama Kemi, kept eyeing her from a distance like she had done something wrong. At first, nobody said anything. You know how village people behave, pretend not to see, pretend not to know. But when she started skipping choir practice and wearing big wrappers to church, the whispers began. Some said she was sick. Others said she was just getting fat. But I had seen enough pregnant girls in this town to know what I was looking at. One of the other girls in the youth fellowship said she saw Kemi crying alone behind the church one evening. Another said she had heard her mother shouting at her in the compound, threatening to send her to the village if she didn't speak up. Then, one day during Sunday service, Pastor Femi preached about the dangers of youthful lust. He didn't call names, but his eyes kept looking in her direction. Kemi didn't sing that day. She just sat with her head down, both hands on her lap. I wanted to ask her what was wrong, but I was afraid. In this church, you don't just talk about people's problems. Especially not when they involve someone like Pastor Femi. He was that man of God. The one who healed the sick and cast out demons. Nobody wanted to believe he could do wrong. But as the weeks passed, Kemi's belly kept growing. And there was no hiding it anymore. People started keeping their daughters away from her, saying she had become a bad example. But none of us were ready for what she was about to say. We were all there that Sunday. It was youth choir rehearsal, and the sun was hot like fire. Kemi came late, wearing a wrapper and a loose blouse. She looked weak and pale. Some of the girls hissed when she walked in, but she didn't answer anybody. She just sat on the bench and held her water bottle close to her chest. Not long after we started singing, she collapsed. Everything stopped. We rushed to carry her inside the church office. One of the boys ran to call her mother, while another brought water. Her blouse had lifted a little, and that's when some of the girls saw it properly for the first time, her round belly. Nobody could deny it anymore. Kemi was pregnant. By the next day, the whole church knew. At first, people thought it was one of those small boys in school. Some said it was her neighbor's son. One even mentioned the keyboardist. But Kemi didn't say anything. She just stayed in her mother's house, quiet. Her mother, on the other hand, was everywhere. Angry. Embarrassed. She even climbed the altar one evening during midweek service and said, "The devil is attacking my house, but he will not win." Then came that Sunday. The church was full. Pastor Femi stood on the altar preaching about discipline in the house of God. Halfway through the sermon, Kemi's mother dragged her to the front of the church. She didn't even let the pastor finish. She grabbed the mic from the assistant pastor and said, "This girl must confess her sin today." Kemi stood there, shaking. She kept saying, "Please, not here." But her mother slapped her. Right there. In front of all of us. And that's when it happened. Kemi screamed, "It was Pastor." Dead silence. Even the baby crying at the back stopped. You could feel the tension in the air. Some people gasped. Some just looked down. Pastor Femi didn't say a word. He just stood there, frozen, with sweat on his forehead. Her mother froze too. Then she shouted, "You lie. You liar. Devil is using you." She grabbed Kemi by the arm and dragged her out of the church. Nobody said a word. Not even the elders. But from that day, nothing in our church was ever the same. After that Sunday, things moved fast. By Monday morning, people were already coming to Pastor Femi's house with gifts and prayers. Some said he was under attack. Some even called Kemi a Jezebel. She wants to destroy the man of God, they said. She has been watching too much television. It was strange. Everyone saw her stomach. Everyone heard her shout his name. But still, they blamed her. Even her mother didn't believe her. She told some women at the market that Kemi had been spoilt by the world. She said she would deliver her back to Christ, no matter what. The church elders called a private meeting. No women were allowed, just men in suits and agbada. We heard the doors were locked for hours. When they finally came out, their faces were stiff. One elder said, "The matter is being handled with wisdom." The next Sunday, Pastor Femi came back to the pulpit. Wearing white. Looking holy. He didn't mention Kemi's name. He just preached about Joseph and how Potiphar's wife lied against him. People stood up and clapped. Some even cried. They said, "Touch not my anointed." But behind the scenes, some members had started to talk. One woman said she once saw Kemi cleaning pastor's office at night. Another said she warned her daughter to stop going near him months ago. A few men kept quiet, but you could see it in their faces, they were not sure what to believe anymore. Still, nobody took any action. Instead, they told Kemi to repent and ask for forgiveness. She didn't return to church for a few weeks. We thought maybe she had left town, but then we saw her again. Walking behind her mother. Belly bigger. Eyes empty. Her mother didn't even look ashamed. She just pulled her by the hand and made her sit in the back row. Like everything was fine. After service, the pastor didn't go near them. But the women from the prayer unit gathered around Kemi and began to pray loud prayers. One woman even poured olive oil on her head. She has a lying spirit, they said. She needs deliverance. Kemi just sat there. Silent. Tired. Alone. And somehow, even after everything, it was like nobody remembered who the real problem was. In our town, when a young girl gets pregnant outside marriage, people treat it like a disease. Even worse when the father is not known, or not accepted. For most girls, there's still a baby shower. Maybe a few aunties gather to pray. Maybe a small gift here and there. But for Kemi? Nothing. Not even one wrapper from the women's fellowship. She was about 7 months gone when I saw her again properly. She came to Wednesday service with her mother. Her belly was huge. You could tell she was walking slow, her back bent like carrying the baby was pain. People stared. But nobody smiled. After the service, Mama Joy whispered to me, "That's the girl that accused Pastor, right? She should be ashamed." I wanted to ask her if she thought Pastor should be ashamed too. But I held my tongue. It wasn't safe to question things here. A few days later, we heard that someone had sent church elders a message, an anonymous letter, saying they should investigate Pastor Femi properly. The letter mentioned other girls too, girls who had spent too much time in his office. But instead of taking it seriously, the elders said it was the work of Satan trying to divide the church. One elder stood up during a prayer meeting and said, "Even if Pastor made a mistake, who are we to judge God's servant?" That word, mistake, burned my chest. Kemi was no longer singing. No longer laughing. Just walking behind her mother like a ghost in her own body. She looked like someone who had been beaten too many times to cry. The youth leader came to visit her once. Not to comfort her, but to tell her she was suspended from all church activities until she confessed the truth. But she had already said the truth. Nobody believed her. There was no baby shower. No celebration. Just silence, stares, and shame. And Pastor. He started a new preaching series, Restoration After Trouble. People kept clapping. Kept shouting amen. Some even said this scandal had made him stronger. Meanwhile, Kemi was still sitting in the back, stomach full, heart empty. And every time I saw her, I kept thinking she wasn't the one that needed deliverance. The baby came one rainy night. I didn't see it myself, but Amaka, who lives 2 houses away from them, said she heard shouting around 2 a.m. Kemi's mother was screaming for help. By the time they got her to the local midwife's place, her wrapper was soaked with water and blood. Some women in the neighborhood followed to help. Nobody from the church went. Not even the women's prayer group. They said they were not led to be involved. By morning the news had spread, Kemi had delivered a baby boy. No name. No party. No congratulations. When I saw her 3 days later, she was sitting outside her house, breastfeeding. She looked thinner. Darker. Her eyes were heavy like she hadn't slept in weeks. The baby was wrapped in a white towel, the kind they give in church for baby dedications. But this child would never see the altar. Mama Kemi said she was going to raise the child herself. She said the child must not grow up without the presence of the Lord. That same week, she took the baby to Pastor Femi's office. People said she went there to ask for help, to beg for money or support. But nothing came from it. Pastor Femi denied everything again. He said, "I don't know what spirit entered this girl, but I forgive her." He also told the elders that the church should let the matter rest. And they did. Even though the baby looked exactly like him, same nose, same small ears. Nobody said anything. Weeks passed. Kemi stopped coming to church. Her mother said she was recovering in the spirit. But I knew it was shame keeping her away. One day, I saw her at the stream, bathing the baby. Some little girls were pointing and laughing behind her back. She didn't respond. She just held the baby tighter and kept scrubbing. People say time heals everything. But for Kemi, time just made her quieter. The baby never got named in church. No dedication. No blessing. Just silence. And the man who caused all this? He's still preaching. Still shouting a fire on the pulpit. Still calling girls into his office after service. And I still see some of them go in with their heads high and come out with their eyes low. Kemi left the village quietly. No goodbye. No suitcase. Just one afternoon, someone said they saw her entering a car with her aunt. By the time the sun set, she was gone. Her mother told people she went to a land work in Ibadan. But we all knew the real reason. She was tired. And the truth is, so were we. Tired of pretending not to see what was happening. Tired of watching the same thing play out over and over. A girl gets hurt. The church covers it. The man keeps preaching. The woman carries shame. After Kemi left, things went back to normal. New choir members joined. The altar was painted again. Pastor Femi preached a Thanksgiving sermon about how God delivers his chosen from false accusation. People clapped. Even I clapped. And I hated myself for it. I kept asking, why did we all stay silent? Why didn't anyone stand up for her? Maybe it was fear. Pastor Femi had power. He prayed for politicians. He owned a big car. He said things like, touch not my anointed and don't bring curses on yourself. People believed he could see visions. That he could curse your womb if you crossed him. But power should not protect wickedness. Sometimes I wonder how Kemi is doing now. If the baby is walking. If she still sings. If her smile ever came back. Her mother still comes to church. She dances during praise and worship like nothing happened. And when pastor walks past her, she bows her head. She still holds the baby during dedication services, lifting other people's children to the altar her grandson will never touch. But me? I haven't been the same since. Now, when I see young girls staying behind after service, I get a knot in my stomach. When pastor asks for one-on-one prayer sessions, I feel sick. I want to shout, but my throat closes. I never thought a church could feel so unsafe. One day, I hope the truth catches up with him. Maybe not through us. Maybe not even here. But somewhere. Because what happened to Kemi isn't just a mistake. It's a wound. A deep one. And even if the church forgets, some of us never will. Some of us still remember her voice. And the silence we helped create.